Coach, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Sully.
No problem. Thanks for joining us. I know you got practice here in a little bit. Let's jump right into it. Last night, you guys started off your season opener against Atlantic City. Tough season opener. Obviously, anytime you're playing Atlantic City, really good game. You guys had cut the lead to 3 points there in the fourth quarter and just couldn't get over that hump. What is your takeaway of the season opener?
Well, I was happy with the way the guys competed. The effort was certainly there. They didn't back down at any point. I didn't feel like Atlantic City. That's just a tough team. No matter when you face them, the opener or later on in the season, and they just. That's why they are who they are. They play defense unlike anybody else, certainly in our league. And, and it showed if you were at the game last night. It was close, but at the same time, we really struggled to get good looks at the basket. And ultimately, their defense just won over our offense for sure.
Did the guys get frustrated at all, not being able to get open for those good looks? It looked to me like they got a little bit frustrated, there in the second quarter and then kind of you guys gathered yourself a little bit at halftime and played pretty well in the third quarter and into the fourth and just couldn't get that big shot to really put a lot of pressure on Atlantic City down the stretch.
They did. There was certainly a frustration level, especially with some of the older guys. And I don't think it was not being able to get shots off. Honestly, I think it was not being able to get the ball over half court consistently. They really tightened up the pressure in the second quarter, especially when we put some subs in. And, it made life really difficult just getting over and into an offense, let alone getting some good, clean looks. And you're right, we sort of all calmed down and regrouped at halftime and talked about how we'd maybe make that a little bit easier for ourselves, but you're never going to make it easy to get the ball anywhere against Atlantic City. That's just who they are. They are tenacious and aggressive and the toughest man-to-man defensive team that I've certainly coached against.
Talking with head coach Dan Williams of the Mainland boys basketball team. Coach, you got a pretty nice squad there in terms of, you have the big guys inside. You have some pretty scrappy guards on the outside. Talk a little bit about these big guys, Jake ONeill and hopefully I'm saying his name right, Oshun. Did I say that right?
Right. Oshun Osuni.
Oshun Osuni.
And, yeah, he's really I'll get back to Jake in a second. He's really developed quite a bit. I mean, he's a junior. He came in as a freshman at 6 feet. He had played 1 year of basketball, and he had a tough time just dribbling the ball, in practice without any defense from one end to the other. And he's put a lot in. He's still thin, but believe it or not, he's bulked up since he got here. Obviously, he's grown 7 inches or thereabouts since coming in as a freshman, and he's developed into a rebounder, a shot blocker, a guy who can certainly put back some of those things on the glass. He's still not a polished low post, with a couple go-to moves kind of guy, but he's a presence in there, and he's very active, and he's just got a good knack for when to go up and disrupt, if not block shots. And I'd say that's probably his strongest point, the altering shots and rebounding at this point. And hopefully he just continues to develop with some more offensive moves. And then, of course, there's Jake. Jake's at his best when he's keeping things really limited. And, he's a rebounder. He did a real nice job last night. He's very effective in helping break a press because he's got a good sense of the game. He understands how to make himself available, turn, keep the ball high, look for the next player. He tends to, because he has some skills for a big kid, like to put it on the ground a little bit more, maybe pull up for some shots that, as a coaching staff, we wouldn't prefer all the time. And when we can keep him sort of within a limited role, he's very effective. And we asked a lot of him last night, and with Dean Devaney being out, both he and Oshun had to end up playing more minutes than we were planning on playing them. But that's just the way it goes. I mean, they had a player out as well. I'm sure they played some guys more minutes because Leon wasn't playing.
Right.
But, they're two effective kids when they're playing within their roles and they're not trying to step outside what it is they're effective at doing, for sure.
Yeah, Jake, like you mentioned, he did a real nice job breaking that press, and he's one of those big guys who's kind of rare in that, if he gets stuck in that press, he can put it on the floor and really bring it into the other side of the floor and kind of get things set up. And how much has he developed over the last year or two? He kind of came in as pretty much just a shot blocker, being 6'9", 6'10", whatever he is, but he seems to kind of be a little more comfortable this year in what he's doing out there, and I guess your hope is that he can be a little more active offensively and kind of take some pressure off the guards in terms of knocking down shots, right?
Right. If he continues to develop as a finisher around the rim, he's going to be a very effective player. You're right about the shot blocking. That's sort of always been there. When he transferred over from St. Augustine, he was good at that right away. In fact, day one, in practice, he had a real nice block against Darius Jerkins, who was playing for us at the time. And it sort of woke Darius up. And honestly, in that season, it was the second half of the season that Darius was fantastic. And I think a lot of that was going against Jake in practice. He's a really solid defender. What we now need him to do is be very effective from 10 feet and in, giving us, some sort of a presence that way, finishing the basketball. I think he went for 4 last night, and that was about his average last year. And I don't want to put everything on his shoulders or anything like that, but I feel like the way he rebounds and with his size, that we need to, if we're going to win more games, we need 8 to 10 points out of both he and Oshun.
Right.
When we only get that from one, it just puts too much pressure on our guards, who are certainly solid, but none of whom are consistently going to go knock down 15 or 18 points for you.
Right. So we're talking with Dan Williams, head coach of the Mainland boys basketball team. Coach, talk about Sam Jackson a little bit and how much of a luxury it is to have a kid like that who's a senior now, real tough kid, plays football. He's the quarterback of the football team, so he's used to having that pressure on his shoulders, and just seems like over the last couple of years he's really blossomed into one of those tough Mainland kids that you can always depend on night in and night out.
Yeah, he is. He's like a throwback, an old school Mainland guy. I have to slow down and sort of enjoy having him this season since this is the last year I'll have him. He's decided to take on from his freshman year, because we did put him in, I guess, with about 7 games left freshman year as the starter. In fact, his second game was against St. Anthony's as the starting point guard as a freshman. And he's decided that even though at that time, he would say, I wasn't the greatest point guard, I wasn't the greatest ball handler, I'm going to go try and do that. And we don't have enough guys that want the ball in their hands in the most difficult of situations. You saw that last night. Atlantic City, there's no more difficult situation. And we need more of our guards to have that sort of mentality that no matter what happens, I'm going to try and take this on because it's a challenge that our team needs somebody to take on. And you can always rely on Sam for that. He's whether he knows it's going to go well or whether he thinks it may be a real challenge and a difficulty for him, it doesn't matter. And that's one of the things that I think a real good leader will do. He's been helpful bringing along the freshman that plays for us, Samir Jones, and he pushes the guys in practice every day. He's even more than his leadership and his basketball skills. He's just a really good kid that anybody would want around any program. I don't care what sport it is or what activity or what club. You want kids like Sam, just reliable, great kids. You never have an issue with them, good in the classroom. All the teachers come up to you in the hallways, the coaching staff, and talk about what a great kid he is. So, I do need to slow down and enjoy him because it's going to be ending sooner than I'd like it to.
Yeah, you mentioned the Jones kid. I was pretty impressed with him. He's got a nice skill set, and he's definitely got some room to grow into being one of your top players the next couple of years. Talk about him a little bit. What was your first impression of him, first day of practice?
Yeah, he's going to ultimately down the road be a handful for sure for some teams. You could see last night he was extremely nervous, whether he would like to admit it or not. And he still hasn't admitted that to me. But, He was, and it showed in the first half. And there were some turnovers there that he wasn't making in the preseason. But in the second half, not only did he sort of reduce the turnovers, look more comfortable, but he also had the poise to understand that Thomas, they've got a ton of good guards, Atlantic City, but, arguably their guy had foul trouble. And Samir recognized that and just started attacking him and picked up at least one more foul was specifically due to his attacking of Thomas. So he's got good recognition. He's got, a good sense of the game. And we saw it this summer because he played on our summer league team. He handles himself like a kid who's older than he is. Actually, he's young. He could still be an eighth grader given his age.
Wow.
So he's been impressive so far. But he's also going to have some growing pains, and he'll need to learn some things over the course of the season. But you're right, looking for some big things from him over the course of the rest of this year and certainly moving forward.
Talking with Dan Williams, head coach of the Mainland boys basketball team. Coach, you got the Ocean City PBA tip-off weekend. You're going to be playing Ocean City tomorrow. Talk about this tournament a little bit, and really it's become one of the really cool events in December to kind of kick off the season. If you're a basketball junkie, you want to be at Ocean City High School this weekend.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of great games. I mean, probably the marquee one of the entire weekend is St. Aug's is playing Newark Tech, and if you are a fan of basketball in any respect, you're going to be at that game and enjoy that game. Two of the state's better teams going at each other in Ocean City. And yeah, you're right. It's loaded, boys and girls, too. There's some good girls games in that. And we're lucky enough that they have invited us the last few years to end the whole thing with, with our big rival, Ocean City. So it's a lot of fun. The kids love it. The fans love it. It's a great tournament to have right before Christmas time, and I'm glad that Tom Williams keeps asking us back.
Got any plan to control Connor Laverty?
We're right before we went on the air. We're trying to draw some things up here, but who knows? No, he's tough. I mean, he's 6'4", so wiry, strong. People I think underestimate the strength that he's put on in the last couple of years. He can do everything. He can handle like a point guard. He can shoot like a two guard. He can go inside and post up smaller guards. He can defend big guys. He's certainly one of the better players in our league, if not throughout South Jersey. And it's not just him. They have Lebrano back, who can certainly put the ball in the basket. They have Jameson, the point guard from last year, back. So they're going to be tough. And having known John Bruno and our staff's known him for a number of years, it's a tough game because they've played St. Augustine the last few years to open up. We played Atlantic City, so we both go in 0-1. We both go in sort of feeling like we need this win. And it's one of those, I'm sure he doesn't. I know I don't sleep all weekend. My stomach's in knots, and usually, feel a little bit better by Christmas time. But
there you go.
An exciting one. Yeah, exciting one nonetheless.
Coach, before we let you go, real quick, your top basketball movie of all time. What do you got?
That's a no-brainer. Hoosiers.
All right.
Great movie.
All right, Coach. Appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow night.
Thanks, Ollie. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
All right, no problem. Thanks, Coach. That was Coach Dan Williams of the Mainland basketball team.